Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do. Do your work with ease and speed. PDF Spaces is all you need. Do hours of research in an instant with key insights from an AI assistant. Pick a template with a click. Now your prezzo looks super slick. Close that deal? Yeah, you won. Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
How you doing? This is the Dick Morris Show with Doug DePiero.
Sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
All right, Dick, what do you got?
Am I on?
Yeah, you're on. His mic is okay? Okay, he's on.
Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Dick Morris on the Dick Morris and Doug DePiero Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. I think that the election results in New York City are going to be very, very much a surprise to anyone that's following the race closely. I think the huge number of early votes may signal a dramatic change in the way the voting is taking place and the results. The conventional wisdom, of course, is the current polling, which has Mamdani at about 43, Cuomo at about 25, and Sliwa at about 21, having come up from 10, 15, 20 now.
So he's moving up.
He's moving up, and Cuomo clearly is not, and Mamdani clearly is not.
Well, I just want to jump in real fast. I really believe the polls are just like 16 with Trump. A lot of people did not. They said, no, I'm not going to vote for Sliwa or this. I like Mamdani because they're sitting home with their friends around the water cooler. And I really believe those polls are wrong with the 40.
I'm increasingly of that opinion. And I'm increasingly of the view that the election is going to be quite a surprise. I think one of the things that will happen is we'll say after the election, wow, Sliwa could have won, because I think he's going to be very strong in the election. And I think that I don't think it'll be enough to stop Mamdani, but I believe, for example, that Sliwa might finish second.
Well, once again,
to Mamdani.
I have to say this, and I've been saying this for a couple of weeks. All the people that like Curtis, that say, I like this guy, I think he would be a good mayor, but I don't think he's going to win. If they go out and vote, he's going to win. I believe that to be the reality of this. All the people, so many people, he's not going to win, but I really like him. You know what? Go out and vote for the friggin' guy. He's going to win.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at this race, you step back and you say, what's going on? Clearly, the negatives on Mamdani are piling up.
Oh, yeah.
And people are talking about it. People are getting that impression. And he's really screwing it up. He chose this week to talk about how bad Islamophobia is.
Right.
And he has no good rebuttal about his being endorsed by the co-conspirator in the early World Trade Center attack in 1993.
Guy, the Muslim Brotherhood guy.
The blind Sheikh, so-called.
Yeah.
And I think that, so clearly Mamdani is in trouble. And I think Cuomo clearly is not moving up. There has been no momentum there.
So there's a space for Curtis.
And there's a space there. The problem is that it's such a long way to go and a short time to do it. And New York is having a very short attention span. I'm not sure that he can close that gap. But
maybe that's why he could close that gap, because of that short.
I think when the election comes in, we're going to be very surprised at how strongly Curtis is going to do. But all this cloaks a bigger realization about Mamdani. The affordability issue is, I think, the increasing issue for us to have in the coming year. I think the midterm elections will be on the issue of affordability. Obama came close to it yesterday when speaking in Virginia.
Obama,
he said, it's 9 months in. How are you doing with the economy? Do you feel a big difference? And he obviously wouldn't say that if his polling showed that there was a difference. And I think that increasingly voters are feeling that Trump's success abroad and with the Gaza stuff is so significant and so important and such a big achievement that it calls attention to the lack of progress on the economy. and that voters are sort of saying, hey, what about me?
You said Obama. You meant Trump.
No, I mean Obama said this in Virginia. In giving a speech in Virginia, he said, it's 9 months in, how's the economy doing for you? And obviously he was intending in that to say it's really not changing. And I think that the slogan that I think Trump needs is bring home the bacon, to take the gains internationally and bring them home to the average person so that they really feel that difference in their lives. And I think that while the Mamdani phenomenon is limited at the moment to New York and might not be as real as people are saying, the idea of affordability becoming the issue is very important. And I think that's going to shape a lot of the midterm election results. In the meantime, the question is, what motivates Mamdani's voters? What's behind them? Nihilism, 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 sometimes called nihilism, is the true underlying motivation of the Mamdani voters. Nihilism is a political viewpoint that life is without inherent meaning, value, or purpose, and it's associated with the rejection of objective truth, morality, and knowledge, and it can lead to despair. There's no better example than the Mamdani vote. Objective truth, morality, and even knowledge are meaningless, and despair is the logical outcome. It's really the political outgrowth of a rejection of truth. It's hard to appeal to them because they believe in nothing, and they believe in believing in nothing. Gouverneur Morris, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, and many say the author of the Constitution's preamble, was the American ambassador to France during the French Revolution. And he famously said that the French people, in their revolution, prefer lightning to light. They value the thrill of a flash of lightning more than the illumination that the light provides. Lightning, after all, once it's over, leaves nothing in its wake but destruction. Nihilists do not value light. After all, there's no point in using it to read because there's nothing worth reading. The sensation of a flash of lightning in the sky, the thrill, is all they seek. And that's what Mamdani voters want. In their frustration with life, in their despair, they want to destroy and promote upheaval. It's not that they're Marxist, communist, or jihadist. It's they prefer the noise and fire of destruction to anything constructive. It's exciting, it's fun, and watching destruction is so cool.
It's almost like dopamine for the dopes type of thing.
Don't try to impute to them ideology, much less consistency. So how do you govern a city with such a philosophy? The answer is you don't. Win the election, count the silver, and move on. How do you get reelected after you fail to govern? You appease the popular appetite for destruction by Schadenfreude, a German word that literally means damage, joy, or harm, joy. AI explains that it's composed of two German words, Schaden, which means harm and damage, and Freude, which means joy. The combined meaning refers to the feeling of pleasure and delight one gets from another person's misfortune. Think of cheering while a gladiator kills his opponent in the ring. That is Mamdani's political appeal. Donald Trump will oppose him with all his might, and the resulting storm, the clash between the two, will provide what the Romans called bread and circuses that the public craves. Good, clean fun that doesn't matter because nothing really matters. So what if the subways don't run or the cops can't control crime? As the poet Edward St. Vincent Millay wrote, "My candle burns at both ends. It will not last the night. But ah, my foes and oh, my friends, it gives such a lovely light." Now, I think that the Mamdani voter sort of says, hey, I went to college, I got a degree, I have a good profession, I work hard at it, and I'm very successful. My friends all tell me I'm really successful. And I look at my paychecks, and I'm making over $100,000 a year, and that's a big deal. I used to be making 40 or 50 or 60, and making 100 really is a big deal. But I find that it doesn't do me any good.
In New York.
In New York. I can't. And the reason that it's taking place in New York before it hits the rest of the country as badly, is that New Yorkers have higher incomes and higher costs, and by about 20%, and they feel it before others do. But the idea that I can't pay my rent, I can't get a better apartment, I can't do my mortgage, and that idea, that frustration, that rage, I did everything I'm supposed to do. I did my education, I did my schooling, I got promoted at work, I got a great job, I wouldn't trade the job with anybody. But the problem is that I'm not making it. It's not enough.
That's what Mamdani's fixed on.
Yeah, and that's why people are voting for him. And if you say it's ridiculous because there's no program there's nothing you're going to do. It was just promising the moon, but you already know you're not getting the moon because you don't have the moon now. And I think that really is motivating the Mamdani voter. And I think will probably motivate a lot of voters in the midterm election.
Plus this nihilism thing. You're nothing, you're nobody, you're nowhere. They just don't have anything to worry. This is perfect for the terrorist. People, these type of people that they could pull in. If they don't think they're any bone, they don't care about anything, they have nothing to lose almost. That's perfect for this Mamdani type of guy and his people.
Yeah, except that jihadists are not nihilists. They devoutly believe in the crap they believe.
No, but they could use these people that are nihilists to mold, to shape the way they want to shape them. So we got Roxana on the other line, and, we do On the Rocks.
A segment On the Rocks.
On the Rocks. So, hi, Roxana. How are you?
Hi, Roxana.
Hi, Dick. Hi, Doug. How you doing?
You should have said hi, Doug, first, then hi, Dick. They don't say him first. Come on, honey. All right.
Hi,
so
everyone.
What do you got?
Well, first of all, that was beautiful, Dick, and so well defined for us to understand what nihilism is. But I'd like to add to this course of thought. And I thought this quote from Proverbs appropriate for these times that we're living. The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way, ensuring your actions are based on sound reasoning and the consideration of potential consequences, not fear. And so here we are. This is not just a time of choosing a New York City mayor. The outcome creates many variables and to-be-seen consequences. But I'm stuck by Mamdani's solicitation of the word free. If we've learned anything in life, it is that nothing comes free, if it comes at all. We've all heard, beware the snake oil salesman. Well, the Mamdani is a charlatan promoting a valueless cure, targeting those desperate, vulnerabilities clouding one's judgment, and the others are just uninformed, following anything anti-establishment, anti-Trump, no interest nor understanding of the prudence that is needed. Now, we could make light if this decision didn't carry such great weight. We witnessed a movement in our country where we were asked the most important of questions. What are your core values? This simple question created conversation, perhaps overdue, but Charlie Kirk probed thoughts of how we wanted our lives to be lived, our children's lives, the future of the United States, the quality of choices offered, an awakening, indeed. So is nihilism becoming this rejection of morality, of no meaning, no hope? I don't believe that. I believe it's the left's strategy being served on a silver platter, shiny, blinding all senses, to the allure of Mamdani's feast of fear, covered with lies so thick you can't even see there's no main course offered, nor do you care. But you can see the result in London, where under Khan and Prime Minister Keir Starmer, new ideas get blocked, wealth creation gets demonized, where a free thought is spoken or put on social media and you're arrested. Who could have imagined? Well, it's exactly what New York City will end up if Mamdani isn't defeated. So again, my feelings, get out and vote for Curtis. He's transparent, honest, authentic. There's no hidden agendas. We've known him for decades. His unwavering passion to protect and restore New York City has stood the test of time. He is New York. He knows firsthand how to make New York City safe. And even above, and I know economics is definitely foremost on people's minds, but so is safety. If you don't feel safe to walk out the door and go to your job, or your children to go to school or to go to the store, the alternative is not acceptable. Yes, Curtis is the law and order. He's the candidate. But remember, a city needs it to ensure safety, stability, and a society can function, prosper. Without it, we've already witnessed chaos, crime, corruption, and yes, their favorite tactic, fear. An overwhelming decline in the quality of life, hindering public health, economic activity, and with social harmony already balancing on the beam, it will surely to collapse, to be seen. You need look no further than history to see the failures of this ideology. The list is long, the suffering is certain. This is a time to decide the quality of your life ultimately depends on the quality of your decision. Choose well. To do nothing is to fall into their trap. I'd like to add to another fear that's being peddled, SNAP benefits. Congress appropriated $6 billion to SNAP contingency funds through September of 2026 for instances like the current government shutdown. And a federal court made the decision that will be paid by Monday or partial payments by Wednesday to spare low income from hardships. Just an FYI. Find the outlets to be informed accurately. So as we forge ahead in making other decisions affecting our country, we do so with strength, knowledge, resilience, and conviction. Starve the server, eradicating, obliterating this anti-American propaganda being fed, restoring our core values to the American way of life. It's not lost. And I'm going to leave you with this. Our lives are fashioned by our choices. First, we make our choices. Then our choices make us. The innate wisdom of Anne Frank. And blessings to all this Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Rock.
Thank you,
That was
Roxanne.
great. Thank you so much.
And, Sliwa is moving up. The polling a week ago had Sliwa at about 16% of the vote. You probably saw those polls. 43, 28, 16. Now, the 43 has become 43. The 29 has become 29. And the 16 has become 21.
Right. So he's moving.
And he's moving. And I think that he very likely, I believe he's probably going to finish, he may finish second.
I think
and
he's
we
going to
may
win.
say, oh my God, why didn't we vote for him? We thought he couldn't win. And now it looks like he can.
Get out there and vote for him
But
if you
vote.
like the guy.
This
We
is
got to
something
take a break.
very
Dick.
likely to happen.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk
Thank you,
about
Roxana. That was
Thank you,
wonderful.
Rock. You want to stay on the line? Stay on the line. Okay.
Yeah,
thank
sure.
You.
Thank you.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
So, Dick, listen.
We have a good guy on the
Without
line.
you knowing, I called some people to call in. We got Jack Chittarelli on the line. Hey, Jack, how are you?
Dick, how are you? Good afternoon.
Good.
We'll call you governor in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 days.
Yeah. So
We're going to make
Governor.
that happen.
how's it going?
Yeah, really, really well. We're up and down the state at rallies in every one of the 20 counties over these last 2 to 3 days, and the energy's off the charts. The reception in minority communities has been overwhelmingly positive, and day before yesterday, we picked up another prominent Democrat endorsing my candidacy. And as I like to say, when Democrats are endorsing their nominee, it tells you how badly people want change.
Right. I saw that.
So I think that the interesting thing is the negatives have been piling up on Mickey
Sherrill.
Sherrill. Tell us about the scam she had about getting money for stock market investment in companies that she voted on while in Congress.
Oh, insider stuff?
Insider trading,
very
yeah.
Nice.
There's a pattern here, guys. I mean, she wasn't allowed to walk in her graduation ceremony at the Naval Academy. She was punished severely. Moved to New Jersey not too long ago, then runs for Congress. And in 6 years in Congress, she's tripled her net worth, making more than $7 million, but can't explain how.
Right.
And then we know she violated federal law for stock trades and stock reporting, paying significant fines for violating those guidelines and rules as a congressperson.
And as a member of the Armed Services
Committee. The whole campaign has been based on a stack of lies and her disdain for the president. She can fly a helicopter. None of that's going to fix New Jersey.
No.
Yeah, I think that she's personifying the idea of Washington arrogance, and I think that she's going to pay for it on Election Day. You came very close last time. You lost by 3 points, I think, to Murphy, and I think this time you're going to go over the top.
I appreciate that, Dick. We do feel a very different energy this time around, and people have had it. I mean, in 21, I was battling the pandemic, a shelter-in-place order, going up against an incumbent, and a whole lot of indifference, people inside and outside New Jersey never thinking I had a shot in hell.
Yeah.
People now know because of the closeness of that race that we can win. And listen, based on her performance through this campaign, including the two debates, I will go as far as to say that no one's ever been more ill-prepared or unqualified for the job.
Wow.
So, Chitterelli's two children.
No, Mickey.
I'm sorry, Mickey's two children.
Right.
Got an inside track to get into the Naval Academy.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Wow.
Good.
We got a note here. It's unbelievable.
Okay. But look, I think that the point is that we're seeing it play out in New York City now. The Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, everybody says he can't win. And yet, he's moving up in the polls. Sliwa at the moment just broke 20%.
21 now.
21 now.
Yeah.
And that was as of Thursday and Friday. So he probably is. I think he's going to finish ahead of Cuomo.
You know, Jack, I don't know if you heard me in the last segment. I said all the people I talked to, they say, I really like Curtis, but he's not going to win, so I'm not going to vote.
The same stuff they said about Chitterelli.
Right. And if those people that say they like Curtis or you go out and vote, you're going to win. It's the same thing. And I believe
the point you're making, Doug, is you can't believe the polls. You got to get out there. Now, I'm very fortunate. All the most recent polls have this thing literally at a dead heat or right within the margin of error in a state where Republicans traditionally underpoll because we're outnumbered by so many Democrats.
That puts you ahead.
But listen, we've seen moderate Democrats that are voting for me. We've seen Democrats that are endorsing me, and we're up with all the unaffiliated independent voters. So going into Election Day, we love our chances here. We just need to finish strong, and we will.
It becomes a question of arrogance, not ideology. It becomes a question of the Democrats saying, this is our state, we can do with it as we please. Mickey saying I can trade, I can profit from insider trading if I want. And
she's entitled?
Yeah, entitled. And the idea that someone like you is coming in as an outsider, changing things.
And clean it up.
Yeah.
And to your point, Dick, I mean, one of the senses of entitlement I gather from them is my opposition is that, listen, yes, there are a whole lot more Democrats than Republicans in the state, but the majority party, quote unquote, is the 2.5 million unaffiliated independent voters that lean right. And listen, the Democrats have controlled our state legislature for 25 years. They've had the executive branch now for 8 years. Can anybody really say they're better off? I mean, look at your monthly electric bill. Look at your property tax bill. Look at your rent if you're a tenant. Look what they've done to public education and public safety. Look at the overdevelopment in our suburban communities. These are all the failures of the current administration here in New Jersey. Of course, my opponent wants to blame everything on the president, but he's got nothing to do with any of those things. The Democrats do.
Well, the president passed a law that said that anybody in New Jersey, anybody in the country, in a state that opts in, can get a federal tax credit of 75% of the cost of the tuition at a charter school. All the governor has to do is opt in, and the money comes in free from Washington. and Murphy has refused to do that. And
why do you think?
You're spot on, Dick. I mean, listen, the current governor and my opponent are both owned by the NJEA, which is the teachers union, a very powerful special interest that doesn't want to see any monies directed toward private school tuition or give a break on private school tuition. And your governor has to opt in. You're exactly right. I've said I will opt in. Given property tax in the state, when you send your kids to private school, you deserve a break. And my opponent will not opt in. She's owned by the teachers union.
Yep.
Wow, that's horrible.
Well, good luck, Jack. Go get him.
Jack, good luck.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank
Governor.
you. And be sure to vote if you're in Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
And on New York, actually.
Wow. All right, let's jump to...
there's been a huge change in the climate change debate. And when your chief opponent concedes, it's worth reporting.
This is billionaire Bill Gates has dramatically changed his position on climate change, acknowledging for the first time there is no doomsday risk for global warming. Imagine that. You know why? Because his dollar. I have my opinion on this when I'm done. In a memo published by Gates Notes Monday night, the Microsoft co-founder, who has poured billions into combating global warming, urges a move away from what he called a doomsday outlook and towards improving living conditions in developing nations. Although climate change will have serious consequences, particularly for people in the poorest countries, it will not lead to humanity's demise, Gates wrote. People will be able to live and thrive in most places on Earth for this foreseeable future. The 70-year-old philanthropist's statement marks a notable reversal from his 2021 book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster. Yeah, don't read his book. In his memo, Gates argued that climate change is serious, but that governments and philanthropists must balance environmental goals with investments that help people adapt. We can't cut funding for health and development programs that help people stay resilient in the face of climate change. To do it, he wrote, it's time to put human welfare at the center of our climate strategy. Now, Trump is loving this.
Yeah.
Right
and,
here.
And he's cheering from the sidelines on this.
Yeah, Trump took a victory lap after billionaire Gates lowered the temperature on his global warming. That's good, lowered his temperature on the global warming activism by walking back his warnings of climate catastrophe. The president, who has long dismissed the climate change narrative as hoax and a con job, offered Gates a pat on the back as well. I told you so. He does that, Trump. He'll move over to the side of...
Yeah, well,
if
when you come over to his point of view,
he'll
he's
say stuff
generous.
like, I like him now. He's my friend now. And anyway, he says, we just won the war on climate change hoax, said Trump in a Wednesday post. Bill Gates has finally admitted that he's completely wrong on the issue. It took courage to do so, and for that we are all grateful. MAGA. Mr. Gates, who has devoted billions to climate change initiatives, stunned the world with his Tuesday memo calling for shifting resources from reducing global temperatures to improving human health and prosperity ahead of next month's UN climate change conference.
The world, and in particular the left, and entire countries like the European Union and Britain in particular, have put every other priority on hold. And the only thing that mattered to them, the only thing that drove their boat has been climate change. And it's become an extreme position, and one that way, way, way overblows the potential danger of climate change. Remember when Al Gore said that
if you don't believe in this,
that there would be no cities anymore. There would be
Florida be underwater.
Florida would be underwater. And there's and those were even 20 years ago, but still continues. And ultimately, climate change is there. There is climate change. There has been climate change from the beginning of human history. There will continue to be. It's cyclical. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. And the issue is for us as human beings to adapt to it.
Right.
To figure out how to thrive and how to make it work. Don't
live at sea level, number one.
Yeah, don't spend hundreds of billions of dollars trying to will the tide not to come in.
Right.
And it's just so ridiculous to try to do that.
Gates saw what was happening with Trump and the EV mandate on cars and all. He saw this isn't working, and he's now getting on board to pivot himself in a direction of where he's going to look. He's going to look at what's going on. He's going to say, "Oh, I'm going to do that now. I'm going to do that now."
But he's not a politician. He's a billionaire.
He's not a philanthropist.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see him change his view on this.
Right.
And I hope, we have a whole generation of kids who've been brought up in school to believe climate change is the big adversary, it's the big threat that looms.
Right.
And that we have to deal with that. And increasingly, it's come to dominate our politics. Well, we're approaching the mayoral election in New York. Oh, we don't have time for the next?
Should we go to a break there, Lux? All right, let's go to a break. We'll be back in a minute.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Let's look at the devil in the face here. There is some significant possibility that it could be Mayor Mamdani on Tuesday. And if he wins and implements the changes he promises, expect the city's financial condition and public safety to deteriorate rapidly. New York City has always run at a deficit for decades, becoming really bad in the 60s and 70s. And when you run at a deficit, you have to borrow money. To borrow money, you need Wall Street to do it, to give it to you. And the bondholders, who are the people who lend New York money, are not going to lend New York money. If the mayor says, I'm not going to collect property taxes, I'm going to freeze rents, and that will permit, that means landlords can't pay their property taxes, and you're going to find huge cutbacks in city services.
It's
huge
like
cutbacks.
it's going to implode, basically.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. So in such a case, desperate New Yorkers will look to Albany because under state law, the governor has virtually unlimited power to curb the mayor's authority and even remove him, even if no crime has been committed. It's a safety valve if the governor has the backbone to use it. The law requires the governor to present grievances against the mayor at a formal hearing before actually removing him from office. Even so, the governor's decision is final, not subject to review by any court.
Wow.
The New York State Supreme Court calls it the naked power of removal. In the event a mayor is removed, a special election must be held within 80 days. Until then, the public advocate acts as mayor.
And that's absolute, Dick. This is absolute.
Absolute. And
I have so many people that call me and say that can't happen.
In 1932, Governor Franklin Delano Roosevelt had evidence of real corruption by Jimmy Walker, who was the mayor of New York. And he exercised the power to get rid of Walker. Walker quit a couple of days before Roosevelt could fire
every time
him.
you say Jimmy Walker, I think Kid Dynamite. You wouldn't know what I'm talking about from the TV show.
Well, at least you're not doing Johnny Walker Black.
But still, if that can happen, that's amazing.
Well,
I mean, Hochul's not going to back up to that.
I think the question here is what Hochul will do.
She won't step up.
I think that what's going to happen is if Mamdani is elected, he's initially is going to be promising everything. And then the cuts will come. And people will see that the bondholders are not re-upping. And they will call for major fiscal changes and reforms. And Mamdani will tell them to get lost. He'll say, I have the mandate to do this. And he'll
but
go
not
ahead,
the money.
And he'll go ahead and make these cuts, make these reallocations, but not have the money to back it up. And he'll go to Wall Street, and he'll go to Albany, and he'll go to Washington and say, I need help to be able to do this. And they're going to say, you made your bed, now lie in it.
But
we're not going to lend you more money.
You think Hochul will go that way?
No, I don't. I think then they'll go to Hochul. And she will try to get out of it. She'll appear weak. She'll temporize. She'll try to split the difference. She'll try to set up controls on Mamdani so he can only implement half of his agenda, but it's not going to work because the issue is not will the voters approve of it. The issue is will the bondholders lend the money based on that? And that's a whole different criterion. And what's going to happen is the bondholders are going to say, no way. Real change, I'm not going to give you money. And that will force Hochul more and more to retreat from a firm position against Mamdani. In the course of it, she's going to appear weak and ineffective and ultimately at the wrong end of a debate. And eventually it will lead to a defeat in the governor's race of
With Stefanik.
28.
So, hold on. Just not to interrupt you, but yeah, I am. So you're looking at Mamdani, Mankami, first of all, getting weak because of this whole situation. Then Hochul getting weak. So you're talking about Stefanik winning because of that.
Yep.
And then her pulling Mamdani out of this whole city.
Yep.
Interesting.
And you can see that
Sounds a little
Mamdani's
too good to be true. But
well, Mamdani's it has to get really bad before it gets too good to be true.
Unfortunately, I know.
Because you can't take these nihilists who are just love the noise and the conflict,
The dopamine.
yeah, and get them to see the truth. But the financial markets will give them the truth,
Right.
and Trump will refuse to bail them out. And after a while, the voters are going to say, let's get rid of this guy. And Hochul is going to say no. And at that point, they're going to say, let's get rid of this woman.
Are you looking at less than a year of this happening?
Well, you have to because the election is in 28. And 26, I'm sorry. 26.
Right, next year.
Yeah, next year. So it has to be within a year.
For anything to truly happen in the right direction.
And I think at that point, you'll get rid of Hochul, you'll get rid of Mamdani, and there'll be a sea change in New York and in New Jersey because of Chitterelli. Because they're going to come up against reality. They're going to hit a wall. There's no money there.
Almost like when we have Biden in office, we started to see, look at this, you started to see how bad this guy is.
But Biden could borrow money. The president can run the deficit as much as he likes. The problem is the mayor can't. And
the only thing is
can't.
Biden couldn't sign the back of the check. He had to auto-pen it.
Yeah. But I think that you're looking here at a real pileup where the will of the people, distorted as it is, will meet reality as harsh as it is. And ultimately, these guys are going to have to be removed from office.
Talk about, last week you talked about Trump getting involved. I don't know if that's a great idea, is it? If Trump got involved with Mamdani and all that
he
business?
will be involved in fighting him. He'll be involved teeth and nail to fight him. And
in what way, though? Financially, he's not going to bail out.
He'll call for more cops. He will oppose the sending out of social workers with a clipboard instead of a cop with a gun.
That. I got that.
And ultimately, he's going to lead the chorus to demand that Mamdani change his positions. Or not get money. 36% of New York City's revenue comes from Washington, comes from federal aid. Can't afford to lose that. And that's what Trump is going to put on the line. That's why the Mamdani proposals are so ridiculous and not realistic.
So Trump also is appeals Stormy Daniels verdict.
Yeah, well, let's go back in time a little bit in our time machine because, you have to count the victories when they happen. Just like we had to count the Bill Gates victory in climate change.
Right.
We have to count the Stormy Daniels victory.
Trump has appealed the guilty verdicts against him in the Stormy Daniels hush money case, blasting the prosecution as politically motivated and seeking to wipe clean the criminal record he racked up before his return to power. The president's legal team, in a 96-page brief filed just before midnight Tuesday, that's last week, right, Dick, rehashed several arguments they made before and during and after Trump's 2024 New York trial. They included accusations that Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg manufactured felony charges under political pressure and that the trial judge, Justice Juan Merchant, Merchan was based on previous
Was
donations.
biased based on previous donations to Democrats.
Right.
The appeal
Totaling
doubled
30
down on Trump's argument that the U.S. Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity proved Merchan should have barred certain evidence from the trial, an argument that was previously rejected.
This is the most politically charged prosecution in our nation's history, wrote Trump's lawyers at the Sullivan and Cromwell law firm. This case should never have seen the inside of a courtroom, let alone resulted in conviction. This court should now be reversed. Bragg's office did not immediately respond to this for comments. It's slated to respond to the filing in writing.
So
Go on. Go on.
So we're coming up on the Fed policies of deportation have led to this astonishing resistance against ICE and this astonishing willing of this taxpayer to allow U.S. federal agents at the Immigration and Enforcement Division to be targeted by the left-wing mob.
We'll talk about this when we get back.
Yep.
Thank you.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I'm stuck in the middle with you, Dick Morris.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. The Trump administration is on pace to shatter historic records and deport nearly 600,000 illegal immigrants by the end of Trump's first year since returning to office. More than 2 million illegal immigrants have left the U.S., including 1.6 million who have voluntarily self-deported and 527,000 deportations that were thrown out. This is just the beginning. President Trump and Secretary Noem have jump-started an agency that was hamstrung and barred from doing its job for the last 4 years. DHS highlighted the CBP,
Which is the
Home App.
Custom Border Protection.
Right.
Custom and Border Protection.
Illegal immigrants can use that app to notify the federal government that they plan to leave the United States. And the government is offering illegal immigrants $1,000 apiece and free flights to self-deport to their home nation.
You know, Dick, I was thinking we fly down to South America,
Yeah,
come
right,
back,
come
we get
back,
$1,000. Well,
and are able to return.
right.
This gives them a chance to come back legally. Those arrested and deported won't be able to return to the United States. According to the DHS, law enforcement has been removing the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens from the country, including rapists, murderers, drug dealers, and pedophiles, despite facing opposition from politicians in sanctuary jurisdictions. In the history of American politics, I don't think you've ever had a problem as totally and completely solved in as short a period of time as the illegal immigration problem. This was the dominant issue in the 24 election. And people said, oh, you can't do this. It's not going to be possible.
Do you have a wand?
And
You're going to wave
it's
a
now
wand.
less than a year, and Trump has basically done it. It's an unbelievable success story.
You know,
Unbelievable.
Trump's able to look at situations, just building the buildings in Manhattan. Trump could look at something and say, very simply, he's a very simple guy. As complicated as he is, he's so simple. That's the sophistication. Simplicity is the sophistication, right? And he could look at a situation and he could see, I could fix it just like A, B, and C, done. Everyone else looks at, oh, you can't do this, you got bureaucratic, and you got to go through this. And he looks at it and goes, I can build that building. All I need to do is work over here and get these people in, and he knows how to get things done. And that's it. So a lot of people will always say he can't do it, and he just says, yeah, fine.
In the meantime, France is going in the wrong direction.
Kidding.
France is proposing a 15% tech tax on U.S. companies, the highest in the world. The French are pushing to increase their digital services tax from 3% to 15%. This would be the highest tax on tech companies in the world. The U.S. imposes no such tax. These taxes only apply to the largest tech companies by global income, all of which are American. If you don't think this discriminatory tax is aimed at America, consider that when it was originally proposed and enacted in 2019, the nickname for the tax around Europe was the GAFA tax. Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple. Gee, what a surprise. All these are U.S. tech companies. Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith warns that the French tax would be an unwarranted attack on America's digital companies and leave the U.S. Congress and the Trump administration with little choice but to pursue aggressive retaliatory actions.
Wow.
You know, the history of tax cuts is still controversial, and the Democrats are doing everything they can to deny that the Trump tax bill benefited all Americans. They claim it was just a giveaway to the rich. But let's go through what the Trump tax bill did. It prevented a $4 trillion tax increase. It reduced by half the number of families paying the death tax, suspended the hated alternative minimum tax, implements work requirements for able-bodied Americans receiving taxpayer-funded benefits, saves the average family between $1,500 and $2,000 in reduced income taxes. You're going to feel it when you file your taxes for 2025. Opens federal lands and waters to oil, gas, and coal mineral leasing. Extends the 20% tax reduction for small businesses. Allows immediate 100% expensing for business development, equipment, software, and production facilities. In other words, you can spend something to upgrade your business, expand the number of jobs, and take a tax credit for 100% of it immediately. It cancels the illegal student loan bailout. It expands health savings accounts so that Americans can spend money on health care that they can control. It includes the largest federal expansion of school choice scholarships for low-income families in American history. That was the thing we were talking to Schiaparelli about. Trump said that you can get $7,500 of tax credit every year for tuition at charter schools, private schools.
But the governor has to.
But the governor has to opt in. Mm-hmm. And the big issue in the New Jersey governor's race is, will federal funds be used for charter and home schools?
And basically said because of the teachers' union is the reason why they're not.
Trump also ended Biden's EV mandates, ended the Green New Deal mandates, and ended Medicaid for illegal immigrants. This was all passed in what Trump called the Big Beautiful Bill. It was an incredible achievement. But I don't believe Americans are feeling it. I think that Americans are still worried about affordability. A lot of this hasn't kicked in yet. And I think that Trump is going to have to bring home the bacon. Mm-hmm. He's going to have to take the global revenue that he's gotten, the trade deals with Japan and Korea and the EU, and translate that into money for Americans. And I'm urging him to send rebates to every American family of $2,000 to make them understand that his global triumphs are having an important domestic effect.
He's almost on board with that. I mean, he's liking the idea. You just got to
tell his people to do it.
Yeah, he just has to do it. So are we on a break now there, Lux? We have to take a break, and on the other side, we're going to talk about Harvard.
We'll talk about the inflation that hasn't ended. 60% of Harvard's grades are A's. 60% of the grades given at Harvard College are grade A.
Yeah, you're going to love that story.
It's like
way
milk,
back.
grade A.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. You know, the latest polling shows Curtis Lee were moving up, and Cuomo moving down slightly, Mamdani moving nowhere. And I believe that what's going to happen on Election Day is that Sliwa is going to do very well. I think he will finish second to Mamdani. I'm not sure he'll be able to beat him, but I think all of those people who are kicking themselves now and saying, I'm not going to vote for Sliwa because he can't win, are going to realize that he could have won.
If you go out
and
vote
maybe he
for the
can
guy.
win if people will still vote for
They
him.
want him, but they think, he can't make it. He can make it for you idiots that don't want to vote for him.
Yep.
Really?
He can. And look, in the last 7 weeks, he's moved from 9% of the vote to 21%. And Cuomo has moved from 28 to
29. No, he went down?
He's 25 now.
Ah.
Yeah. The race is Mamdani, 40-something, Cuomo, 25, Sliwa, 21. And it was Cuomo, 29, and Sliwa, 19. And now Sliwa has come up to a great point.
Yesterday I was on a motorcycle and we went up to Connecticut to this beautiful place, and sitting there, and a little politics, and there were two people there, and they're from London. I go, oh my God, London! You're getting taken over by these immigrants and all this stuff, the Muslims thing, and look what's going to happen with New York with Minda. Oh, we voted for Minda. I go, what? Then New York is also these people from London. They live here. Oh, we voted for Mancami. I said, you did not. I didn't think I would ever meet anyone that, first of all, voted for him. Second of all, very proud that they voted for him. But there's that white
They won't
guilt.
have to live with the consequences.
That's right. Anyway, let's talk about Harvard giving away their grades. More than 60% of grades awarded at Harvard are A's. Professors feel pressured for the number of reasons, but one that jumps out at me most and the most savvy onlookers is the college has been urging faculty to remember that some students arrive less prepared for college. The why here is obvious. The push to bring in a more diverse student body has led to admission scoring metrics that give race an equal or even greater weight than test scores and transcripts. As Charlie Kirk said, DEI stands for didn't earn it. That's what he's going, right? Once admitted, students who cannot hack such a normally rigorous academic environment must be catered to, or as professors worry, they'll complain. Oh, really? They're going to complain? Oh, I'm sorry. They might even organize and, call you a racist and have one of those racist rallies, right? One faculty member told Claiborne there's been a radical shift from providing critical feedback to providing emotional support. Now they need emotional support. Sounds a lot like toxic empathy has polluted yet another institution, replacing tangible, measurable outcomes with irrational emotional appeal. The result has been a comprehensive increase in institutional dysfunction. Harvard used to have a unified culture. It used to demand excellence. Anyone who was admitted to the university and graduated from it could immediately identify one of their own. It's funny. In music, right? I'm a musician. I play. And a couple times I said it to you. We were watching The Great Thing. I could always identify the best music school is Berkeley in Boston.
Right.
The best. And I always go up to a player and go, you're from Berkeley, aren't you? And they would say, yes. How do you know? First of all, I always tell them, because you're a snob. The Berkeley musicians are big. But they're the best musicians. That's what he's talking about here. Their shared experience, to borrow a term from the insufferable left, has nothing to do with race, creed, or social economic background. It was that regardless all of those factors, they came together and achieved something truly profound and difficult in the span of 4 short years. So so now they're just dumbing down. That's all they're doing. The epitome of dumbing down the world.
And while they're dumbing down, the legislators and the left are raising taxes on pressing for a global wealth tax. I talked to you about France earlier. Now they're pushing it in California.
And retroactive. This is unbelievable. The union supporting the 2026 ballot initiative
In California.
Say the billionaire's tax would help prop up the state's collapsing healthcare and education systems. California is already the highest tax state, but faces a $12 billion deficit at the start of the year. Emmanuel Sayers, is that how you say it, Dick? Sayers, an economics professor at Berkeley and brainchild of the proposal, he has supported a 70% federal income tax rate. Says that there would be no way for the rich to get around paying the tax because it would be retroactive. That I can't believe. How could they do that? Retroactive to 2025. Retroactive taxes are usually ruled unconstitutional, taking of property, but Lord knows what the courts in California would decide. Billionaires generally aren't stupid, so how many would stick around for the next round of wealth taxes? California and New York are in a race to see what state can raise taxes the most, really. So it's no surprise that these two states have lost close to 1 million residents over the past
million residents each.
Wow.
Literally, New York has lost about 900,000 people, and California's lost about 1.2 million. And what the Census Bureau does is it calculates the incomes of the people who've moved out, and it looks at what their income was, and then it says the state has lost that money. So in New York State, you have close to billions, literally tens of billions of dollars of revenue that has been lost to the state because of people moving out of the state.
And California has 200 billionaires. I can't believe that. 200 billionaires? Is that many billionaires in the world?
Well, it's going to go down quickly. 199 when you now 198.
It's unbelievable. It's a shakedown is what it is.
Speaking of downward mobility, New York City, if Mamdani is elected, is going to go the way of London. As New Yorkers prepare to elect a left-wing mayor, perhaps the voters there should reflect on London's lessons, because their city could be easily going the same way.
These people I met from London,
and
they just voted for this guy. I didn't realize that.
The depreciation of the British capital's once powerhouse economy is becoming more obvious every day. The city of London used to be the key financial hub for all of Europe. This year it dropped out of the list of the top 20 initial IPO offering markets in the world, overtaken by Mexico and Oman in Arabia. Major British corporations have shifted their listings to New York, while some newer ones don't even bother considering London. Likewise, the glitzy skyscrapers that had started to line the Thames, the river, are no longer getting built, with projects such as planned Tulip skyscraper blocked. Indeed, hardly anything gets built anymore, with new housing starts down 38% on the year.
Wow, that's why.
Labour Party's Shahid Khan is now in his third term as mayor, and has partnered with the Labour government in power nationally to crush the economic life of the city. Under Khan and Prime Minister Keir Starmer, new ideas get blocked and wealth creation is demonized.
Why? How? Why?
Well, because it's a left-wing government. It's a socialist. They elected their equivalent of Mamdani 3 years ago. And
but they see this happening and the economy is going to go in a dumpster.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Well, they don't care.
They're nothing, they're nowhere, they got nothing.
Exactly.
Is that it?
Exactly.
Nihilistic thing.
Nihilistic, yeah, exactly. Now, as we approach Election Day in New York, the Quinnipiac poll shows Mamdani losing whatever Jewish support he had.
How could he even have any support from the
Jews
Jews?
are finally getting the message. While Quinnipiac showed Mamdani with a 10-point lead over Cuomo, down from 13 points a week ago, now it's only 5. It showed his share of the Jewish vote down to 16%, off from 29% earlier in October. 16% of the Jews are still voting for Mamdani. I wonder how many voted for Hitler. 3/4 of the Jews now view Mamdani unfavorably. Only 1 in 12 has a favorable view of him. The poll shows that Mandami's erosion of support among Jews went mainly to undecided. Cuomo's vote share among Jews held at 60%, while Sliwa's grew from 8 to 12. Jewish voters were more undecided, with the percent undecided rising from 2% in early October to 8% now.
I wonder,
these trends, I think, are going to continue.
I wonder, there's no poll on gays and the LGBTQIZ. How many of those people are into this Mandami guy? Who's going to throw him off the roof if he wins?
Well, Sharia law says he is. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
So where are they going?
Right.
There's no poll with them, right? We don't show anything.
Well, they don't use that as a demographic banner. They probably should.
They should.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what that's about. So 60% of illegals on food stamps cut off by government shutdown. Of households headed by illegal immigrants, CIS, which is Central Index System, estimated that 59% use one or more welfare programs, cash, food assistance, Medicaid, or housing. Illegal immigrant households have especially high use of food programs, with 48% enrolled in one or more of these programs. SNAP, WIC. SNAP is Supplement Nutrition Assistance Program,
yeah.
And WIC is Women, Infants, and Children. In particular, our analysis found that 17% of illegal immigrant households use SNAP. In addition to food programs, 18% of illegal immigrant households were enrolled in one of the cash programs. 4% were using a household program, and 39% used Medicaid.
So the whole government shutdown issue is that Republicans want to cut off food stamp and other benefits, Medicaid in particular, to illegal immigrants. The Democrats claim they can't get illegal immigrants. They can't get that aid because the law specifies that if you're here illegally, you're not allowed to get Medicaid.
Didn't Biden?
But then they added a law under Biden that said that even if you're not allowed to get Medicaid, if your health benefits are at risk and there's no other way for you to get care, you get put on Medicaid. And now a survey comes in and says that 39% of illegals use that loophole to get Medicaid. So the Republicans are right. Medicaid is being used heavily by illegal immigrants.
You know, it's amazing. All the time, I always say, how often does it backfire for Democrats? Everything they do seems to backfire. Now with the big, beautiful bill and them not doing it and the shutdown, it's going to backfire in their face. Exactly, because now we could see this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So where are we going, Dick?
14. Jaw-dropping whistleblower documents made public Wednesday show the Biden Justice Department secretly cast a massive investigatory net over the Republican Party, and much of the surveillance appeared to be triggered by Trump's announcement of his third presidential campaign in November of 22. At a press conference at the Capitol on Wednesday, furious Republican senators lined up to denounce what an unidentified whistleblower had uncovered. Special Counsel Jack Smith and his legal team, under Operation Arctic Frost, issued 197 subpoenas seeking records and communications of more than 430 individuals and organizations, all of whom happened to be Republican. Those targeted include Stephen Miller, Dan Scavino, Jared Kushner, and Lara Trump, who all worked in the first Trump administration or the Trump campaign.
Oh, what a coincidence.
Additional subpoenas were issued to individuals and businesses seeking statistical data and analysis related to Republican fundraising. The phone records of 11 members of Congress were also secretly subpoenaed. So this is the FBI investigating Republicans in Congress as the Trump campaign was kicked off. Arctic Frost was the name of the project by where the FBI agents improperly investigated the entire Republican political apparatus. Contrary to what Smith has said publicly, this was clearly a fishing expedition. The whistleblower documents exposed the zeal within the Smith investigation to nail Trump with criminal wrongdoing more than 2 years after the riot in the Capitol. In March of 23, an email exchange about the riot, Smith's deputy, Cooney, asked Smith, can we do some work to nail Trump down, Trump's role in this? A month after Cooney's email, subpoenas started flowing. Ted Cruz has erupted on Wednesday in a fiery press conference calling for the immediate impeachment of one of our favorites, U.S. District Court Judge James Boasberg, an Obama appointee, after revelations that the activist judge signed an order secretly authorizing the seizure of Trump's private phone records. I'm sorry, Cruz's private phone records.
Right.
And GOP records while blocking AT&T from notifying them. So a federal prosecutor secretly got records from the phone records of a U.S. senator and blocked AT&T legally from informing the senator. Cruz revealed during the press conference that the Biden DOJ, under the direction of Smith, had targeted him and 8 other senators in a blatant fishing expedition. The subpoenas issued as part of the sham Arctic Frost investigation tied to President Trump's rightful challenge of the 2020 election fraud sought cell phone data that Cruz insists is protected in the speech and debate clause of the Constitution.
All right, we got to go to a break. We'll talk a little more about this when we get back.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
What's the show, Dick? What is this?
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show.
Oh.
Sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Oh, that's great. Listen, before we get into the next story, let's get Sandra from New Jersey. Hi, Sandra. You playing piano?
No, I'm actually in the hospital with my husband.
Oh, I hope you're okay.
Oh, what's the matter?
Maybe she doesn't want to talk about it. Oh, the call
okay.
dropped.
Okay.
God bless you, honey, and your husband.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, get into
I've
the
read
story.
an article that I want to share with you, even though it's very long. I'll probably take 10 minutes to read it to you, but it's worth it because it tells you everything you need to know about China and its future and the challenge it represents to the U.S. And the theme of the article, which is written by some Chinese experts, is that Trump is defeating China just like Reagan defeated Russia. So listen up.
The collapse of China's grand strategy.
China badly overplayed its hand. It will now lose its monopoly on rare earth minerals as surely as the night follows the day, depriving it of perhaps its greatest advantage. Global security will be greatly enhanced. But the most telling point is the reduced tariffs. China will now charge the U.S. 10%. The U.S. will charge China 47%. So Trump signed supply deals for rare earth elements with Cambodia, Japan, Malaysia, Thailand, South Korea, and Vietnam. This is not just mining. The deals with Thailand, Malaysia, and Japan include the creation of significant refining capacity, 92% of which is currently in China. The Japan deal also includes a crash deep-sea mining initiative with significant long-term implications. All this complements Trump's initiatives at home, plus his deal 10 days ago with Australia to develop mining and refining there also. So why'd China agree to these deals? Simple. Xi Jinping, who is the leader of China's, his Belt and Road Initiative and aggressive posture have been catastrophic failures. China's grand strategy is collapsing, and understanding the cracks in their system, Trump pressed the advantage home. China is still a significant adversary, but there's a lot to do and a lot to guard against. But after the events of the week, beginning with Xi's apparent loss of control of the military, I reported this, that there were 9 significant generals high up in the system who Xi fired this week. They're a lot less significant than was widely believed just a few months ago, and leaves China with one good card, and they had many bad ones to play. So the collapse of China's grand strategy. This is written by Frank Tian Zies and Talil Osmanbekov.
Osman Bekov.
Yes, pardon the pronunciation.
Osman Bekov.
For over a decade, China pursued an ambitious grand strategy aimed at displacing U.S. leadership and reshaping the global order in its authoritarian image. Under Xi Jinping, China expanded its economic, technological, military, and political footprint from the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, to military outposts in the South China Sea, often building an island that would become, in effect, an unsinkable aircraft carrier. But that strategy is now collapsing. The Belt and Road Initiative is mired in debt and dysfunction. China's tech ambitions are stymied by export controls, and authoritarian allies are unraveling under geopolitical and military pressure. Internally, Xi faces growing dissent and instability within the Communist Party itself. Facing stagnation and decline, isolation, and a fraying coalition, Beijing needs a grand bargain with Washington, not as triumph, but as retreat. This would mark an opening for the United States to press for systemic conditions, ending support for adversarial regimes, halting maritime militarization, and rebalancing trade. A transactional realignment could restore American leverage, reshape the international order, and, if handled deftly, undermine the communist rule itself. For U.S. leader, one like Trump, such a deal could be framed as a Reagan-esque victory for liberty over tyranny and a Nobel-worthy achievement. Technologically, through a plethora of mechanisms, IP right infringement, outright theft, industrial espionage, forced tech transfer, and students and scholars at Western universities, China launched years ago an unprecedented effort to achieve self-sufficiency and dominance in critical sectors such as AI, semiconductors, biomedicine, gene modification, space, and quantum computing. This ambition was primarily not about modernization. It was a bid for strategic autonomy and global dominance. By setting standards in emerging technologies and manipulating supply chains, China attempted to carve out a sphere of technological influence independent of and over the West. Militarily, China became more assertive than at any time in its history. Its military modernization, with a particular focus on naval expansion, missile systems, cyber capabilities, and space assets, were all aimed at Taiwan. Beijing quietly encouraged Russia's invasion of Ukraine, seeing the war as an opportunity to strain Western military and economic resources. Politically, China promoted an alternative model of governance, centering on authoritarian control, state-directed development, and sovereignty over individual rights. This was a huge change from what communism usually did. This actually drilled down to the individual, and by monitoring his emails and what websites he visited, it was able to target individuals and force them to the left and force them to buy into the Chinese system.
Almost like the credit score thing we talked about.
Like the credit score, only ideological. And by exporting surveillance technologies and advancing proposals for cyber sovereignty, China sought to legitimize digital authoritarianism and curtail the open internet. In doing so, Beijing not only did not simply reject the existing global order, it aimed to redefine it in terms of its own belief and ideology. The Communist Party's ambition was not just to protect its rule at home, but to make the world safer for autocracy abroad, the world's new center in the capital of the Middle Kingdom. So this is a summary of what China has been doing to us. Now listen to what, in fact, is coming out. Article is entitled Failure Everywhere. However, since the end of the COVID pandemic, Beijing's grand vision of a China-centered global infrastructure has frayed. Launched with great fanfare in 2013, the Belt and Road Initiative promised to forge a new era of connectivity, development, and soft power. But over a decade later, many of the flagship projects lie unfinished, mired in debt distress, corruption scandals, or local backlash. From Sri Lanka to Kenya, which has a railway to nowhere, the Belt and Road Initiative has become emblematic not of China's strategic foresight, but of Beijing's heavy-handedness and overreach that China can no longer afford. As economic growth slows there and the shadow of depression looms over China at home and over recipient countries demanding debt relief or simply walking away from unsustained projects, China finds itself grappling with the costs, economic, diplomatic, and reputational, of its once vaunted initiative. The cracks in the Belt and Road Initiative reveal a deeper miscalculation. Beijing treated infrastructure as strategy, but underestimated the politics of the ground it sought to pave. Many BRI recipient Belt and Road recipient countries, initially lured by cheap loans, and the promises of modernization, are now confronting the downsides of opaque controls, poor environmental safeguards, and sovereignty concerns. The retreat of Chinese lending and Xi's shift to a smaller and smarter BRI signal tacit acknowledgments that the original model is no longer tenable. On top of this is the Communist Party's elites looting and grafting of funds under the banner of the Belt and Road Initiative. Far from cementing China's global leadership, the Belt and Road Initiative now serves as a cautionary tale, one in which ambition, outpaced capacity, and influence was squandered by indifference to the very government standard Beijing sought to sideline.
That's it right there.
Access to China's vast consumer industrial markets was a strategic lever that Beijing used to compel political concessions and shape foreign policies in the world. For years, the promise of trade, investment, and market entry silenced criticism of China's domestic repression. But that leverage has begun to erode. China's slowing economy, aging and declining population, and shrinking labor force have diminished the allure of its market, particularly for companies in countries now wary of supply chain dependence and political risk. Remember, a few weeks ago I told you that the predictions are that by the end of the 21st century, the population of the United States will exceed that of China.
It's unbelievable.
We will literally have more people than China. And China is losing about 100 million people a year. Even smaller nations, once seen as easy to coerce, have begun to push back. China once appeared poised to dominate the heights of the 21st century tech economy. State-led initiatives like Made in China 2025 and massive investment in AI, semiconductors, and quantum computing signal Beijing's ambition to reduce reliance on foreign technology. But that vision is increasingly at odds with geopolitical reality. Think Donald Trump, U.S.-led export controls, especially in advanced chip-making equipment, have exposed China's deep dependence on foreign know-how. Despite pouring billions into domestic alternatives, China still lags behind in critical sectors like cutting-edge semiconductors, where breakthroughs cannot be bought or forced by fiat. The gap is narrowing more slowly than Beijing had hoped, and technological iron curtain is beginning to rise, as it did during the Cold War. In other words, Trump is cutting off access to the chips that are essential for China's technological dominance. And while they're squeezing us about rare earth minerals, well, Trump is countering the squeeze with trade deals with a dozen countries and deep-sea mining initiatives. China is still stuck with the lack of chips that it focused. The shock came in waves. The global expansion of Huawei, revelations of intellectual property theft, and state-orchestrated drives for self-sufficiency under the Made in China in 2025 initiative. What once seemed like industrial policy suddenly looked like techno-nationalism. In response, the U.S. and its allies began reorienting their policies, tightening export controls, reshoring, that is, getting export supply chains back into the U.S., investing in their own innovation ecosystems.
The West
yeah.
The West has belatedly come to see that technological leadership is not just about economic competitiveness. It's about the balance of power in the 21st century.
Now, compounding the challenge are China's own structural constraints, a political environment that punishes dissent and privileges loyalty over innovation, stifles the kind of open scientific culture on which true technological leadership depends. Private tech giants, once global success stories, have been reined in by the Chinese regulatory crackdowns that prioritize control over competitiveness. Meanwhile, global trust in Chinese tech has eroded as countries from Europe to Southeast Asia grow wary of surveillance risks and strategic dependencies. China may still become a formidable tech power, but the dream of global dominance is slipping away, undone by external restrictions and internal contradictions. China's strategy of stretching U.S. power by encouraging the war in Ukraine is not working. In a recent interview, the Chinese foreign minister admitted that China was very much afraid of Russia losing the war in Ukraine, since that would result in the U.S. redirecting its attention and its focus on communist China. Even worse collapses already unfolded in the Middle East. In Syria, Assad fled to Moscow and his regime collapsed. Iran's regional posture suffered severe blows. Hamas is dead. Hezbollah is dead. In a historic escalation, Israel, backed by U.S. intel and air power, struck deep into Iranian territory. With its authoritarian partners and its subjects faltering, its strategy of multi-power disruption backfiring, Beijing now faces a narrowing list of options. The last good card it may have to play is a strategic recalibration, distancing itself from its embattled allies and seeking a thaw with Washington. Quiet signals suggest that China is already weighing the costs of continued alignment with pariahs like Russia and Iran, whose wars and repression become liabilities rather than assets. A transactional pivot selling out these partners in exchange for reduced tensions with the U.S. and for reduced tensions and for restored access to its cutting-edge know-how could offer Beijing short-term relief from economic stagnation, an easier path as it enters the terminal phase of its too-late-to-avert demographic collapse. But such a move would come at a steep price, undermining the very alternative order China spent decades trying to build. If Beijing chooses a rapprochement, it will do so not from a position of strength, but of recognition that its grand strategy has failed. The real obstacle in this direction is the Communist Party itself, particularly Xi Jinping. It may have to give up its decade-long rhetoric and its propaganda of hostility toward freedom. So this article raises the opportunity for a brand bargain, which Trump would frame as a Nixonian bargain or Reagan-esque peace through strength, offering China economic survival in exchange for geopolitical retreat and an end to communist rule. Trump should not seek vague promises, but demand strategic realignments. Such a grand bargain and concessions are unlikely to take place if China remains a hardcore communist state. But the possibility of change is higher than at any point since Tiananmen Square. Even the most loyal party members nowadays do not really believe in communism anymore, let alone the general public in China. Trump has expressed his disdain for communism and socialism. A grand bargain between the U.S. and China could change the course of the 21st century. It would pull the world back from the brink, cooling conflict, stabilizing economies, restoring order in a time of chaos. For America, it would mean strength and security without endless wars. For China, a chance to rejoin the global system without humiliation or the burden of communism. And for millions caught in the crossfire of proxy battles and trade wars, we offer something rarer, peace.
Wow, it's amazing. We have to go. When we come back, we have to talk about this.
One of the big problems in the U.S. is that our pessimists always dominate our outcome. We never report good news to our people. And when we do, it's always with asterisks about becoming bad news.
Yeah.
So it's important to stop all of that and to look at our main adversary, China, and understand the truth. China is collapsing and shrinking and losing, and the United States is winning.
When we come back, we have to talk more about this, Dick.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
So this is the Dick Morris, Doug DePiero Show.
Sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Dick, we have to talk a little more about this. We can't jump to another topic.
Yeah. The collapse of China. The simplest way to understand it is the population. They outsmarted themselves with their zero population growth, with their one-child policy. And while they've repealed that, they have permanently screwed up their demographic cycle. And China is becoming a smaller country, a failed country, at the same time that it sold the whole world on this Belt and Road Initiative. And it got countries all over the world to go into debt and to borrow money they couldn't afford for projects they didn't really need.
So you were saying that, I mean, it's a beautiful thing to think that China would come into the new world and become something and we could work with them. But our good friend Clara has got something to say about the Communist Party. You got to put her mic on.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
This is Clara.
Yeah. Well, Dick, I think you raised some critical issues about the trends that are a reality. The population is decreasing. They have squashed technological innovation and companies. Alibaba is a good example, the CEO that they vanquished. And so I think that certainly is happening. And the Belt and Road has been a travesty among African nations and all over South America. The Chinese have really quashed a lot of situations. But here's the other side of the issue. The Chinese culture is thousands of years old. It's going to take a long time for them to really embrace the Western free market capitalism.
And you said
element.
Earlier that they just think they're smarter than us.
The
So
Chinese
stick to
culture
that.
is much older. The American culture is brand new in their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll take a long time for them to really see it our way. But let me make sure that I also emphasize what Dick mentioned, the technology race, and how critical Trump's victory and Trump's power has enhanced Americans' technology advantage. The Biden administration had put all kinds of handcuffs on technology expansion throughout the globe, including China. And they were the Democrats intended to quash technology all along the board. Trump got rid of all of the inhibitions and all of the constraints right off the bat. And so all the technology innovation in AI that is going to transform economies around the globe and people's lives now has America in the top notch, and China knows it. China's aware of it, that we are really racing ahead where they were hoping to be ahead. Remember that there's a massive digitization of industry that's taking place as we move forward into time.
Let me just interrupt. You're listening to Clara de Villar, an expert in Manhattan who we invited on the show to augment this perspective.
You're very kind. But anyway, I just want to end with the notion that you're raising really critical issues about the trend. Let's not underestimate the stubbornness of the Chinese in this debate.
Their honor and how they feel about themselves.
They're a very proud culture, a very historically long culture, but also the critical issues that Trump has enhanced. Our technology advantage here, we're going to see that historically as one of his great triumphs.
And politically, as we approach the midterm elections, I believe that Trump should bring home the bacon I think that should be the slogan that Trump uses for the next year.
How?
Well, we've all sat back and we've watched these enormous successes of Trump diplomatically in Gaza and in wars throughout the world. We keep hearing about these trillion-dollar trade deals with Japan and the European Union, deep-sea mining, rare earth minerals, and all that. But most Americans are not feeling that. Most Americans do not feel that their personal financial situation has improved since Trump was elected. Some feel that way, but the majority do not. And Trump needs to take a bold action so that he brings the bacon home. He says, look at all this money I've gotten from tariffs. Look at all this money from foreign investment. Now I'm going to give every American family, regardless of income, a check for $2,000 that you cash, that you can spend right now. And it's a down payment. We'll have others as these deals come through. Because there's an increasing feeling that he's doing all this in the world, but how about me? How about my kitchen table? How about my balances? And I think bringing the bacon home has got to be the theme of the next year of the Trump presidency.
I just want to ask Clara one more thing before we get off of this subject with China. The part where what Dick read, where for China, a chance to rejoin a global system without humiliation or burden of communism. So you're saying they have this pride and they believe they're smarter. Just touch a little more on that you really don't think they'll go to that point where they'll feel like they could join the world?
They're not going to embrace capitalism. This is not in their DNA. So that's just not going to happen. They have a better hold on the communist way. It's multi-generational point of view.
Even under Xi.
Even under Xi. I think
even
actually
after Deng.
I think they still have abandoned the Deng element, and they are very slow to re-embrace it. Deng changed everything. I think, Dick, and again, this is an opinion, but also from what we've witnessed, when the Alibaba CEO is a very good example, right? It was the first multi-billion-dollar company. It was taking on Amazon. It still is. But the point is once that CEO became extremely rich and extremely powerful and went on the global stage criticizing China, they couldn't take it. They just couldn't take it. That free speech element that our country benefits from, they just couldn't move in that direction.
Oh, interesting.
So, but one question. So, in other words, China themselves, they have a hold on their people also, and that's another reason why they won't go
it's a billion people.
Capitalism.
I think they still use force. There's no question about it because the as you saw in the latest CCP gathering, the group is much smaller.
CCP, Chinese Communist Party.
Yes, it's much smaller. So I think Xi has an autocratic, dictatorial hold on that element.
So basically, it would have to be the people to rise up for anything to change.
I don't buy that. I don't think you're looking at a Tiananmen Square thing.
No.
I think you're looking at the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, understanding that they've been had by Xi and that he's led them into a confrontational relationship with the U.S. that they're getting killed in.
That may be true. But remember also, you see, China has competition, certainly from the U.S., but also from India. Yeah. So remember, India's there. So what we're saying is that China's delusion that they could be the absolute top of the heap in the globe, they're going to continue to diminish.
China's population has dropped below India's.
Right.
Yeah.
So India has the highest population. They are a competitor in the technology race in a very major way.
But you still think they won't figure this out and go to capitalism direction in a way?
That's our American secret sauce, and that is what makes us an incredible country, and will continue to make us an incredible country.
Incredible thought. Now, speaking of free speech, Trump is current. Do we have a break?
Yes.
Okay, we'll
go to break when we get back.
We'll talk in a minute.
Thank you.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DePiro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Listen up. We're asking you to sound off on the big issues impacting voters this election day on Tuesday. From now until Tuesday, go to WABCRadio.com/election and vote. WABCRadio.com/election and vote on it. We're talking crime, cost of living, transportation, anti-Semitism, all of it. Today's question is, how important is fighting crime and empowering the police? Cuomo's proposed adding 5,000 officers to the police department. Mandami wants social and mental health outreach workers to respond to crimes involving the mentally unstable. How important is crime and police empowerment to you? Go to WABCRadio.com/election and vote now. Trump has, with the government shutdown going into its, what were we at, 7th week or something, Trump is telling the Republican Party, ditch the filibuster. It has always been possible for the Senate, by simple majority vote, 51 senators, to change the rules of unlimited debate. In the House, you don't have unlimited debate. Representatives, congressmen can only speak for a certain amount of time each. But in the Senate, you have unlimited debate. And this is a tradition that goes back over 200 years. It used to be used all the time to stymie civil rights bills and to promote racism. But in the last 40 years, it's become routine that the Senate will not pass a bill without 60 votes in favor of it. When I spoke to President Clinton when he was elected, I told him, you don't have a majority in the Senate. He said, no, I do. I said, no, they've moved the goalpost on you. You need 60 votes. And to do that, you have to get Republicans. He said, I'll get moderate Republicans. And I said, there is no such thing. They're character defects. So he came to rue that decision. Now Trump is saying, take action now, get rid of the filibuster while you have a clear majority in the Senate. Don't wait until you possibly lose it in the 26th election. And the Republican senators are pushing back and saying, hey, wait a minute. We think we're winning. We think we're going to win. We think the Democrats are imploding. We're not willing to bet the farm on that. If we are wrong, we need the filibuster to be able to stop the Democrats from doing horrible things to the country. And that's the argument now going on Capitol Hill.
Where do you think it's going to go?
I think that they're going to settle the government shutdown before it gets resolved, because the Democrats know that the filibuster will be repealed, and they're willing to settle for a loss in the shutdown in order to keep the filibuster weapon open. That's what I think's going on. I think Trump pressuring them to get rid of the filibuster is designed to make
good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, to make the Democrats move.
He's amazing. He is some piece
he's
of work.
Incredible.
You want to go to the phones, Dick, or no?
No, I want to read something from McLaughlin.
Okay, John McLaughlin,
New polling
great guy.
Let me just get it up here.
Yeah, Trump really has a way about him, the way he deals with everybody, and even, the Republicans and Democrats, and he just sets rules without setting a rule. He just says, here's what I'm going to do, and he doesn't bluff. There's no bluff. When people say he's bluffing me, it's not a bluff. He's going to do what he says. Go, Dick.
This is from John McLaughlin. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell had one chance to right the ship of America's economy. Instead, with his latest meager quarter-point interest rate cut, he's proven once again why voters are demanding new leadership at the Fed. Despite persistent calls for action, Powell has remained slow to respond to the economic pain Americans feel daily. Mortgage rates, car loans, credit card interest remain sky high, strangling middle-class families and small businesses. Our latest national survey shows just how fed up voters are. Only 33% have a favorable opinion of Powell, while 27% are unfavorable. Even more striking, 59% of likely voters still support replacing Powell with someone who will aggressively lower interest rates. Inflation on McLaughlin's new poll of likely 26 voters conducted in the last week of October, underscores the defining issue of the midterms, the economy. 43% of voters say economic issues are their top concern, far more than any other category. Within that, reducing inflation and the cost of living leads as the single most important issue at 21%. No other issue even comes close. While only 40% believe the country is headed in the right direction, and 55% say we're on the wrong track. Confidence in the economy has slipped sharply. In August, 41% said things are getting better. Now only 36% say that, while 58% say worse. Trump cannot go into these midterm elections with these numbers. He'll lose his control of the House. He'll lose his control of the government.
So what does he do?
And it will be disastrous for the country. What he should do is bring home the bacon. Use the money that he's gotten from other governments to mail out $2,000 checks, not tax credits, not investment income.
Cash in their pocket.
To every American household, and say that as these trade deals come in more, I'm going to continue to do that and continue to give the money to you.
You know what? He should do that right now before Christmas. That's what he should do.
And we have to understand the surge of Mamdani vote, not as socialism, but as New Yorkers realizing this national phenomenon.
Right.
That no matter how much money they make, they can't get ahead. And Trump needs to solve that, not by income tax relief, but by mailing out a check.
Dick, it's an honor to be here with you. Thank you very much to Clara.
And thank you, Clara.
And Roxana, that was beautiful on the rocks. So there we go. It's an honor, Dick Morris.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
No. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
No. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.